and he is witness that I never ate anything without sharing it with the poor and orphans. And whenever I came across 2 acts of worship, I always preferred the more difficult." Hearing these words, one of the young men told the other companions, "May Allah destroy you. You came to Allah's Prophet and criticized him to the extent that he was forced to reveal a good deed he had performed in secret. He truly believed in the beauty of being humble and giving charity." You see, boys and girls, the best charity is done secretly without getting rewards in this life for it. Prophet Ayub knew that. Prophet Ayub did not want people to know how much charity he did, how many times he fed orphans, because he kept that between him and Allah. He did not want fame. For example, if you donate money to build a mosque or feed people in need, there is no need to boast that you gave thousands of dollars. The only one who needs to know is Allah, and trust me, He already knows all about it without you having to open your mouth. That is true charity. Allah will reward you. Be genuine and humble. When they went away, Prophet Ayub prayed to Allah and sought his permission to express a wish. The Almighty sent a cloud that hovered over his head, and a voice came from it. "Ask whatever you wish, and I am always near you," the voice bellowed. That was Allah. Ayub gathered all of his strength and sat up. Then he said, "Oh my Lord, I swear by your might that you never sent any suffering upon me. But whenever I had the choice of 2 worship acts, I preferred the one which was more difficult for my body. And I never ate without sharing my food with an orphan. Ya Allah, I tried my best to be good. I tried my best to do the right things and help people. Did I not echo your praise? Did I not thank you enough? Did I not glorify you enough?" Prophet Ayub grew tired. He wanted to know, did he do something to upset Allah? Rather than thinking that he had reason to be upset with Allah for Allah cursing him, he thought that Allah was upset with him. See, Prophet Ayub had tried his best to do everything to make Allah happy. Then 10,000 tongues of the cloud replied, "O Ayub, who created you with the character that you prayed when all the world was asleep? Who is that made you worship most likable to you?" Meaning, thus Prophet Ayub would pray and pray and pray more than anyone else. Prophet Ayub prays so much like he liked it. Do you pray so much that you like it, boys and girls, or do you just pray because your mommies and daddies tell you to? We need to have more conversation with Allah because we like talking to Allah, because we like sharing with Him and praising Him. Do you think you have obliged the Almighty, Allah asked Prophet Ayub, where He has favored you by granting you the divine opportunity to worship and thank Him? You see, boys and girls, Allah has given us everything we need to worship Him and thank Him. So we should, we need to, and we want to, and we should always think of Him before anything else. Boys and girls, we have to want a connection with Allah, and we have to strive for it. Ayub picked up a handful of dust and stuffed it in his mouth to apologize for what he had spoken. He said, "Ya Allah, I was wrong, and I beg your forgiveness. All the bounties and opportunities of worship are from you alone." The Almighty sent an angel who kicked the earth, and a spring of water gushed out. Ayub bathed in it and was immediately cured of all diseases and discomfort. His body became more fresh and beautiful than ever before. Then Allah caused orchards and gardens to grow all around Ayub. All of his wealth, his property and farms were miraculously restored. The angel was sitting with him and engaged in conversation when his wife entered with a piece of dried bread. She saw in place of the ruins she was used to living in for the past few years, a blossoming garden, blooming orchards. Instead of her old and sick husband, Ayub, she saw two very handsome men. She began to scream and cry as to what had happened to her husband. And then Ayub called to her, and when she came near, she recognized him. This was her husband from many, many years before. Seeing the return of the divine bounties, she bowed down to Allah in gratitude and thankfulness. Allah had restored all of their wealth and their happiness and her husband's health. When she had gone in search of food for Ayub, she had long, beautiful hair. The people she had approached for bread demanded that she trade her beautiful braids in return for food, and she cut off her hair and bought food for Ayub instead. When Ayub saw her messy hair, he was infuriated and vowed 100 lashes. But when she told him the story, he became sad and regretted it. After this, the Almighty Allah brought the animals to life, and even their sons who had died in all of the calamities done by Shaitan. And so they would all live happily together with Ayub again. Later, the believers who circled around him asked him of the worst of the tragedies that had happened to him. They had all watched him suffer years upon years, and they all could never understand why. There was nothing they could ever do to help him. Now that Ayub was better, he replied that it was the sarcastic remarks of the people. The mean, rude statements that people made was the most hurtful. Not that Shaitan took away his land and his horses and his health, but how poorly people treated him. You see, boys and girls, the mean things that people said to him when he was suffering hurt him even more than the actual loss of his home and his family. It hurt more than the wounds that covered his body, the fever, and the smell. Can you imagine that saying mean things to someone could be worse than all of that? You never know the real pains that anyone is going through, boys and girls, and you really shouldn't say mean things. You don't know how much that can hurt someone. You don't ever want to make anyone cry. You don't ever want to hurt anyone's feelings. That's not nice. We should always say nice things to make people happy and make people like us. This will make Allah like us, love us. The Almighty showered Prophet Ayub's house with pieces of gold, and Ayub gathered them. And whenever a piece fell out, he would rush towards it and pick it up eagerly. Angel Jibreel was confused. He asked, "Are you never satisfied?" But Prophet Ayub said no. "Who could ever have enough of Allah's bounties?" replied Ayub. And that's true. You can never have enough blessings from Allah. And likewise, you can never do too many good deeds. You can never even do enough good deeds. Because at the end of the day, you don't know which deed will weigh the most, which deed will count the most. Allah tested Prophet Ayub much more than he tested some other prophets. And yet, the more Shaitan hurt Ayub, the more Ayub prayed to Allah, the more he was thankful for. We must always remember, boys and girls, that we shouldn't only pray to Allah when we need something. We should pray to Allah every day, for good or bad. We must also always remember to be grateful Again, even for the little things, especially for the little things. I want you all to think about what you are grateful for during this commercial break. And when we return, we will learn about another prophet, Prophet Yunus.
I'm a cool kid, you're a cool kid, we are cool kids, are you a cool kid? Every day I want it, I need to drink lots of it, full of fruit, vitamin C, give me lots of it. My imagination is growing and so am I. I'm getting big, so give me fruit of cool kids, it's so juicy, so I could touch the sky.
Become a cool kid now by visiting www.fruiticoolkids.com.
Welcome back to Storytime, boys and girls. We just finished the story of Prophet Ayub, who suffered great loss of his house, lands, crops, animals, sons, and even his very own health. He lost almost everything he owned and loved because Shaitan wanted to see him get upset with Allah. Shaitan thought that he was only grateful to Allah because Allah had blessed him with wealth. He thought that when Ayub lost everything, he would no longer love Allah. But boy, was he wrong. This only made Ayub pray to Allah more and thank him more for sparing his life. The story of Prophet Yunus is similar to that of Prophet Ayub. Once again, it shows Allah's power and his kindness to the believers when they are in need. When hope has gone and death approaches, Allah's power is found to be strong and merciful. Allah sent Prophet Yunus to the people of the village of Nineveh. He called them to Allah, but they rejected him and were stubborn in their disbelief. Like many before them, they believed in their idols. Angrily, Prophet Yusuf left them, promising that they would be punished after 3 days. He had barely left when the skies began to change color, and the sky looked like it was on fire. The people were filled with fear. They recalled what happened to the people of Thamud and the people of Ad before them. Faith and fear took over. Knowing that prophets do not lie, the people took heed and went out into the desert with their children, their cattle, and their flocks. There, they humbly begged Allah and prayed passionately to him. The camels and their young grumbled. The cows and the calves bowed low. The sheep and the lambs complained. So Allah removed the punishment from there. Allah was grateful and proud that the people had finally listened. They had finally listened to the prophets that he had sent to warn them. Why was there never a city that believed before? Look, they listened and they benefited. They had much more to gain once they believed in Allah. When they believed, Allah removed the punishments and he gave them enjoyment for a time. Alhamdulillah. As for Yunus now, he left the village angry. He embarked on a ship with some other people to go far, far away. The boat crashed and Yunus was thrown overboard. Allah, glory be to him, sent a fish to Yunus. When Yunus jumped into the water, the fish swallowed him whole.